Straight ahead, for or against, Dallas residents head to the polls to consider a $1.25 billion bond for street repairs, parks, a police training facility, and more. We'll hear from supporters and opponents. New poll, the U.S. Senate race between Republican Ted Cruz and his Democratic challenger Colin Allred is closer than some of you may think, according to a new survey. GOP primary runoff battle. We profile the open 30th District Senate seat. Brent Hagenbuch and Jace Yarbrough are competing in next month's election and discuss their priorities. Good morning, I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics starts now. Hello and welcome to Eye on Politics. Hope you're having a great Sunday. Early voting begins tomorrow for the May 4th municipal election, and voters in Dallas will decide for or against in the $1.25 billion bond election. It's made up of 10 ballot propositions. We spoke with supporters and those who oppose some of the bonds to help you decide how to vote.
We need to invest in our city, plain and simple.
Dallas City Council member Paula Blackman is among a long list of city leaders, past and present, including Mayor Eric Johnson, who support all 10 ballot propositions that make up the city's $1.25 billion bond for 2024. Most of the bond money will go toward Proposition A, streets and transportation, for a total of $521 million. We're talking about fixing potholes, repaving and repairing streets and alleys, and making roads safer. One item on the very long list of projects includes a complete redo of Peak Street from Lemon and Haskell down to Perry Avenue near Fair Park at a cost of more than $22 million.
So what we're also seeing is people saying, you know what, I don't want to be in my car all the time. I want a bike trail. I want a sidewalk. And so we need to meet those needs as well, and that's expensive.
Proposition B is for expanding and upgrading parks and recreation, which has the second most funding, more than $345 million. This includes $30 million for improvements to the Dallas Zoo, plus $4 million to make upgrades to the Dallas Arboretum, and $6.5 million for the expansion of Clyde Warren Park, and also $20 million to dredge White Rock Lake, a project that's also received federal funding.
As we've seen, people care about that lake. And since the pandemic, people want to be out in a public park.
I'm going to call those the no-brainers.
Dallas Council member Kara Mendelson supports Proposition A and B. She says there are many other needed upgrades slated for neighborhood parks across the city.
I've got parents taking kids to the playgrounds where the playground is the same one they played on when they grew up on. And these need to be switched out for safety.
There's also Prop C, $52 million for infrastructure and storm drainage to protect neighborhoods against flooding. But Mendelson says while important, she opposes this and one other proposition.
Those propositions have other ways to fund those projects. And so we don't really need to go the route of a bond.
But Blackman says voters should approve Proposition C.
We have real issues with flooding, especially in East Dallas, where we have lots of creeks. So I say it's a small amount to invest in people's quality of life in their neighborhood.
Then there's Prop D, upgrading the city's public libraries for more than $43 million. More than $75 million will go to Prop E, toward repairing city-owned arts facilities and attracting visitors to the Arts District. Prop F, $90 million, will go toward public safety facilities, and that includes $50 million for the newly proposed Dallas Police Department's new training facility, the largest single ticket item in this year's bond. Supporters, including former Dallas Councilmember Jennifer Staubach Gates, say a new police training facility is needed because the existing one was outdated long ago.
Anybody that's toward it is, I think, appalled. If you want a great police department, it starts with the training. And this is going to help us retain and recruit, which we desperately need. And it is going to help us be a world-class police department that's going to be community focused.
The new facility will be built at UNT's new campus in South Dallas. But not everyone supports this project, including Tamara Hutcherson of the group Stop Cop City Dallas.
And we believe that it will result in more over-policing and repression in our communities, and we think that money could be utilized elsewhere. Well, why not invest money in updating that facility instead of completely constructing a new facility entirely?
The training facility will cost a total of $140 million. If voters approve, the city will have a total of $80 million committed to the project. And Staubach Gates says she's been speaking with a number of private foundations about making contributions of their own to this public-private partnership.
So we're moving in the right direction. We have a lot of support, but we need the voters to stand up and support this proposition.
Prop G is more than $72 million for economic development and attracting jobs and workforce programs. More than $26 million would go towards Prop H and expanding options for affordable housing. Mendelson says she opposes this proposition as well because there are other programs that can pay for housing initiatives, and says the city has already used them effectively.
We're actually ahead of what our goal was in terms of affordable housing production, but I don't think it's wise for us to take on debt to create affordable housing.
Prop I would spend $19 million for helping the homeless, which includes funding for renovating and increasing capacity at the bridge shelter. And Prop J, $5 million to upgrade the city's IT infrastructure after various problems with technology and security in the city's government. Coming up, a new poll shows a tightening U.S. Senate race between Republican Senator Ted Cruz and his Democratic challenger Colin Allred. Then later, we hear from Brent Hagenbuch and Jace Yarbrough. They're locked in a Republican primary runoff battle for the open 30th District State Senate seat in our northern suburbs. Eye on Politics. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. Now to a new Texas poll in the U.S. Senate race. The Texas Hispanic Policy Foundation poll conducted April 5th through 10th shows Republican incumbent Ted Cruz leading Democratic challenger Colin Allred by 5 percentage points, 46 to 41%. Among Hispanic voters, Allred leads Cruz 44 to 39%. In the presidential race, the same poll shows presumed Republican nominee and former President Donald Trump has opened a 12 percentage point lead over Democratic President Joe Biden, 46 to 34% among likely voters. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has 9%, while two other candidates each has 3% and 8% are undecided. Trump also leads Biden among Hispanic voters, 41 to 37%. CIA Director William Burns came to Dallas this past week. On Thursday, former President George W. Bush welcomed Burns to his presidential center at SMU. Burns emphasized the importance of Congress approving aid to Ukraine.
Ukrainians are at a tough moment on the battlefield right now. The Ukrainians are not running out of courage and tenacity. They're running out of ammunition, and we're running out of time to help them. With supplemental assistance from the U.S. Congress, I think the Ukrainians can hold their own on the battlefield.
Uncertainty remains in the U.S. House, where Republicans remain divided over whether to pass bills to provide aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. We recently spoke with North Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne and Jasmine Crockett about Israel and Ukraine. First, we'll hear from the Democrat, Jasmine Crockett.
That supporting Ukraine means that we're supporting us. But I am very concerned about giving Putin any more power than he already has. If Putin is successful, I have no doubts about him going into a NATO country, which means that not only will we then be required to spend money, but it means that now our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our uncles, our cousins who serve this country honorably may get called up.
Do you agree with calls that there should be an immediate ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war?
When we discuss things like the ceasefire, we also make sure that there's mention of those hostages that are still in Gaza. There needs to be a ceasefire in exchange for those hostages. And I absolutely believe, ceasefire or not, there has to be more aid that is going into the people of Gaza.
Now, Republican Beth Van Dyne shares her thoughts.
I'm not in favor of sending a blank check. I think we need to make sure that what that money is being spent on is for lethal aid. I think we need to make sure that, if there's a way to get, possibly paid back, maybe not in cash, but it's a lend and a lease program as opposed to just writing a blank check, that's considered. We don't want Russia to feel empowered, and that's what they feel right now when Ukraine is not getting support.
Do you agree with calls by some who want an immediate ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war?
Absolutely not. I think we have Americans right now who are being held hostage. You've got over almost 100 hostages that are still being held in Gaza. They need to be released. We had updates yesterday from the freshman class that went to Israel over the recess last week, and they're saying that almost half of the women who have been taken and have only been raped but have now been impregnated. If you want to see ceasefire, let's go ahead and get those hostages back home. Let's not forget about them.
Coming up, a GOP primary runoff battle for an open state Senate seat in North Texas. Brent Hagenbuch and Jace Yarbrough discuss their priorities if elected. Eye on Politics, back in a moment.
The Texas Education Agency is rolling out an automated scoring machine to grade written answers on the STAR exams. By using the automated scoring machine instead of hiring thousands of temporary human workers, the TEA says it will save $15 to $20 million each year. Automated scoring engines use AI technology and natural language processing to evaluate the writing skills of student essays. The STAR exams were redesigned last year to include fewer multiple-choice questions. And since then, there's been a spike in students scoring 0 on written answer portions. Automated scoring was first rolled out earlier this school year. For high schoolers who took the STAR in December, more than 60% failed performance level for the English 1 composition and almost 70% for English 2. But this year, after students take their exams, machines will grade all the answers. Then, 25% of the responses will be rescored by humans. The TEA says machine scoring is in line with human scoring.
Now to the GOP primary runoff battle brewing for an open state Senate seat here in North Texas. We're talking about the 30th district, which includes parts of Collin, Denton, Grayson, Cook, and other counties. The current senator, Republican Drew Springer, announced last year he's not running again. After a 4-candidate primary March 5th, Jace Yarbrough and Brent Hagenbuch, a former Denton County GOP chair, emerged to compete in the May 28th runoff. This is a Republican majority district and will likely stay that way. One issue that's come up is whether Hagenbuch lived in the district for 1 year before the November election, as required by the Texas Constitution. A civil lawsuit will lead to a trial. We asked both candidates about it, plus their priorities. First, we'll hear from Yarbrough. Your opponent has a lot of endorsements from, former President Donald Trump, Governor Abbott, the Lieutenant Governor, Senator Cornyn. How do you go up against somebody who's got all those endorsements?
I'm not running against any of those people. I'm running against my opponent in this race. I'm very proud of the endorsements that we have received in this race. So it's true that my opponent has a number of endorsements from very well-known politicians in the state. But we've been endorsed by virtually every grassroots organization in our Senate district and across the state. Everyone from Grassroots America, We the People, and Texas Right to Life to the Grayson County Conservatives and the Parker County Conservatives. So good people are lining up behind us.
Your opponent has been accused of living outside the district and not being in the district for a year beforehand, as the rule is, the state requires. Where are you on this? Do you think he is eligible?
No, my opponent's not eligible. The constitutional requirement in the state is that you live in the district for a year before the election for which you're running. So for us, that's November the 5th, 2023. You need to be a resident of Senate District 30 as of that date. The incumbent, Senator Springer, did not announce that he was stepping down until November the 7th, 2023, which is 2 days after that deadline. That, in my mind, is the event that triggered my opponent's decision to try and fabricate residency in this district. Now, why don't I believe that he lives there or did live there as of November the 5th? He has a homestead on a lakefront property, $1 million lakefront property in Senate District 12, and he has resided there and voted there since 2017, to include the election that concluded on November the 7th, 2023. So he voted on October the 29th from his Senate District 12 address. He claims on his filing paperwork that he lives in the 3rd floor of a commercial office complex in Senate District 30 that his trucking company rents. Under Denton City Ordinance, living in that commercial office complex would result in a $2,000 per day fine and a new Class C misdemeanor for every day that a person resided there. There are a number of other issues and stark evidence that proves that he does not live there, but that is what he is saying and claiming. The only court he asked the district court, a number of, well actually all three of the candidates who challenged him in the primary filed suit against him. One of those suits was in the Denton County District Court. He asked that district court to dismiss his suit. That court said, no, there's enough here to go to trial, and so we're going to do that.
What are your top 3 priorities if you're elected?
The border, education, and property taxes. What's going on at our southern border is both an existential and a constitutional crisis. Existential, obviously, because we can only handle so much as a culture and a society of people who are not, who don't share our convictions and our values, coming here and existing and living in our communities, especially when thousands or even hundreds of thousands of those are criminals and even known criminals. What's going on in our schools is unprecedented and frankly insane in a number of ways. I think Texas parents are realizing that. And then property taxes. We want a property tax system that encourages people to put down roots and build lasting legacies. That's what's going to make our communities and our state strong. And right now we have a number of folks, especially in Senate District 30, who are at risk of losing homes and land that have been in their family for generations because they can't afford property tax bills, which are doubling and trebling in the course of just a couple of years.
Now we hear from Hagenbuch. You've been endorsed by former President Donald Trump, Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Senator Cornyn. What does that say about your campaign?
What it says is that people have looked at that background, understood that I was committed to the Republican Party for many years, saw the military background, saw the business background, and I've worked in the party long enough to get to know people. I think it's from my reputation that them know me personally, many of them, and then just looking at my background, realizing that I'm really well suited to be a senator.
Your opponents in the March 5th primary challenged your eligibility to be able to run. Your opponent told me you're not eligible. So I want to give you the opportunity. I know there's a lawsuit that is still yet to go through the process and perhaps a trial. What is your response?
Sure, yeah, I'm absolutely resident eligible to run just as much as my opponent is. We showed the documentation in the court when we signed the lease for the property that we're in now, well in advance of time. When I changed my voter registration far before Drew Springer ever even told anybody he wasn't going to run. So I think the good Lord puts you where you're supposed to be, and I think this is a good example of a number of things that lined up that told me that I should move forward with this. And in terms of the court cases, we've prevailed every time. They've taken it to court over and over again. This is a campaign tactic. I didn't realize that, but in talking to people, it's not uncommon for folks to try to use this. I think, if you have as many endorsements as I have and the kind of record I have, you got to try to find some way to tarnish that, and I think that's what's going on here.
So are you just saying, just so I'm clear, you're saying that when you signed the lease for the trucking company, which is in Senate District 30, that is where you were going to live? I mean, I just want to make sure.
There's a separate lease for the apartment living space that we are in.
Okay,
Yeah. That was done October 3rd, I think, something like that. Yeah.
That's the apartment across the street from the office?
No, that's actually in the facility. It's a mixed-use facility. I think that's been confused. It certainly is. Yes, and the owner there had a quarters that was set up pretty well for a living facility, and that's the place we're at, and that's what I'm talking about.
And you said that you changed your
voter registration. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when was that?
I think that was, I have to look at the exact date, but it was in advance of the time frame that is necessary.
Okay, and I don't want to harp on all this, I just want to get your sense of it, because your opponent said that you still voted in Senate District 12 in the November election, 2023.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, and that was necessary because you had to have 30 days to change your voter registration time frame. So I did it the right way.
And so you changed it after?
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to ask you about your top 3 priorities if you're elected.
First and foremost, I think everyone knows has to be, we've got to secure the border. I mean, the fentanyl is coming across as a scourge on our youth. We have trafficking. Everybody knows how bad it is, and it's just gotten worse. I think in the Biden administration, something like 10 million illegals have come over. That's like the size of the 8th largest state. It's just become ridiculous. And I'm very proud of Governor Abbott. He's standing up to the federal government and to Biden. I think, and I read the Constitution, I think a state has the right and responsibility to do that. And we in Texas need to secure our own border and finish that job. $6 billion was allocated in the last session. I don't think Texans should have to pay that kind of money, but for this one, and I'm a small government, low tax kind of person, but in this one case, I think I would vote for whatever it takes to secure the border. Then secondly, I think school choice is a big important thing. I think that'll get passed in the next session. I think we parents need to have a choice of where their kids get educated. Now, I still support public schools very much. My wife was a school teacher. I believe we need to pay teachers as well. Big supporter of fully funding our law enforcement. That's important to me.
The winner will face either Democrat Michael Braxton or Dale Fry in the general election on November 5th. And remember, you can watch the full interviews of everyone on today's show on our website, cbsnewstexas.com, and go to the Eye on Politics section. And that is all for Eye on Politics this week. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening at CBS News Texas. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again next Sunday. From all of us here, have a great day.